What's going on, fellow A-Plusters? It's your host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new episode review. Tonight, we're about to go ahead and get into episodes 1 through 3 of Andor and give you really our breakdown, our thoughts in regards to what we think of the series so far, as these episodes wind up just dropping this past Wednesday on Disney+. So if you have not had the opportunity to check it out, please go ahead and do so, as the Star Wars fan in me is incredibly thrilled for this season, to certainly say the least. It's been highly anticipated for myself. I'm a huge fan of Diego Luna. I love with him, along with Tony Gilroy, along with Garrett Edwards, what they wind up doing with Rogue One. So to see Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna back for Andor made me extremely excited, because I was really hoping that they would carry over what they created in Rogue One into this series, and it feels very much like they just did not miss a beat whatsoever. So we're going to go ahead and dive into our episodes 1 through 3 review for you guys. I apologize about this coming so late to you guys. Really, I truly am. As a big fan of Andor, I wanted to go ahead and watch the first 3 episodes on that Wednesday, but the unfortunate problem is I am currently now working at my office for the next 6 days, and so it really slowed down my process of getting to watch the episodes on time, getting home on a timely manner to go ahead and record or do any live for you guys. So I really do apologize about that. But beginning next Thursday, I am sticking to my going live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time for you guys, as I will not be working in the office next Thursday. So it should certainly open up my days for me to go ahead and do that for you. It's just honestly around here, it's been super stressed. It's a lot on my plate, and I've been trying to navigate the idea of trying to not only do Andor, but also the Rings of Power for you guys. And now I look up and it's Saturday evening, and I got to get ready for A+ Hero Report on Sunday also. So a lot on my plate. So thank you for being patient with me, but I promise beginning on Thursdays, we will be going live at 8 p.m. Central Time with our review for Andor. So just so you guys have the heads up. So let's go ahead and get into these reviews. I'm not going to do a separate review for episodes 1 through 3. I'm just going to talk about the 3 episodes in general. And so first off, I got to say, I love being back in this world that Tony Gilroy decided to go ahead and create. This series really separated itself from anything else that I think that they've done when it comes to Disney+. I think really the only other series that that holds up to this is probably The Mandalorian. Book of Boba Fett I could probably do without. The last half was pretty exciting though. Obi-Wan, I really enjoyed the series, certainly for what it was. But when you think of Andor, the way that this series was shot on location, not really using the volume like you've seen in some of the other Disney Plus series, you can definitely just feel the difference. I think the idea of them filming on location really helped them feel like we were literally diving into the Star Wars world. And some of the things that I had been reading about Tony Gilroy when approaching this series was the idea that, he comes into this not being a big fan of Star Wars in general. He's very much an outsider getting the opportunity to play in the sandbox. And I think it really shows. And he really told his crew to kind of keep their reverence and love for Star Wars on the back burner, right? Like, don't allow yourself to get so thrusted into this world and think of Easter eggs and cameos and things like that. Really separate yourself for your love from Star Wars and just play in this universe and create in this universe. And I think just by watching the first 3 episodes, you could truly feel that. I don't think there's going to be any fan service whatsoever here done for the fandom. And I think that's probably the right trajectory to go. And I will say, just seeing Tony Gilroy tackle this, it does make me wonder. And I'm not saying, listen, if you're a Star Wars fan, you should never create any sort of Star Wars content. But I do feel like we have seen Star Wars fans create Star Wars content and it feel fan servicey, or a lot of cameos or Easter eggs, or it's like, hey, you remember that one planet that they were on? Look, we're going back, sort of thing, right? Almost to kind of prove that they're fans of Star Wars. And I think in the process of doing that, you kind of take away from the story that you're kind of telling. And the fact that Tony Gilroy is not a big fan of Star Wars like that really just tells me he can tell the story that he wants to tell and not have to necessarily worry about anything. And so the trajectory that Andor is on, I'm truly loving. And so once this episode starts, I honestly feel like I'm in this world, whether that be from the underground club that he's in, the situation he finds himself in, getting shook down by two guards, getting the opportunity to see Andor really shooting first, if you will, eat your heart out, Han, in regards to killing a man sort of in cold blood, in the sense to protect himself, not getting caught, if you will, and realizes that he winds up messing up. So, I mean, we're literally thrown into the nitty gritty of this particular world, this espionage themed thriller, and it works beautifully in here. Shout out also to the musical composer. It has some really great musical moments in here that really gave me goosebumps, really heightened the intensity of certain scenes. And yes, just Tony Gilroy's directing and his writing is just absolutely superb. It's one of those things where, I would love him to come back and do another movie, but I honestly think his time in Star Wars is pretty much up. I think we're going to get 2 seasons out of Tony Gilroy, and that's really about it, unless Kathleen Kennedy wants to go ahead and approach him with a big bag of money and say, hey, please create another movie for us, because I just really enjoy what he brings to the table when it comes to the Star Wars franchise. And quick shout out to Kathleen Kennedy. I know she definitely gets a ton of hate from time to time in regards to some of her decision making, but this was a fantastic decision to certainly be made, as her and Tony Gilroy are in fact the executive producers, and she was in fact the one that greenlit this series, quite separated, if you will, from Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, who, if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe are attached to this series at all. So as long as Andor holds up, hopefully this will be great for Kathleen Kennedy's resume, to certainly say the least. But I will say this: I love the droid design too in here. His personal droid B. I don't remember the full name of the droid. Great stuff. Lucasfilm has some great droid designers, and if you've ever gone to a Star Wars celebration, I do believe that they wind up having like droid contests there, and I've actually heard that they've actually picked people from like these conventions and have seen just some of the impressive work that they've done and wind up bringing them into the fold to go ahead and create more robots. I feel like there's not a droid in Star Wars that I'm not a fan of. I think they do a really great job in just getting the opportunity to see being here. Really great stuff. I really also enjoyed sort of seeing the parallels for Andor when he's older, along with Andor as a child. The idea that he comes from a place called Kenari, and the flashback sequences, because again, you guys know I'm a big fan of flashback sequences. We do get to see an imperial ship being destroyed and like raining down onto the planet itself, so it winds up crashing, and it looks like the Kenari people wind up sending out an expedition group to certainly go ahead and investigate. I do wonder if this is sort of like a first contact moment where they've never known anybody outside of their planet to have ever visited there, maybe didn't even know of the technology that is capable out there in the rest of the galaxy. So maybe that's why they're approaching it with great trepidation in regards to just this vast unknown. Not only is it people that you've never seen before, but ships out of the sky that you never knew even existed. So I am kind of curious if that is a first contact moment, or just maybe they are fully aware of what's out there, but this is their first time coming across the Empire in general. And so I really did like sort of the back and forth of telling those moments for Andor's childhood and seeing them parallel to him as a grown-up, especially the idea of the older lady in here who seems to be a pretty close friend, maybe very much a mother figure, as he winds up infiltrating the Empire's ship. And he winds up coming across this woman and I think maybe her partner and their droid B, in an attempt to get off of the planet. I think they wind up like sedating him, rescuing him, and taking them with him. So kind of like kidnapping, because I'm pretty sure Andor certainly had his own family on the planet. But I think the woman's concern was the Empire's going to come, right? They're going to see this ship. They're going to discover the Kenari people. And for all we know, they may end up they may end up sort of capturing them, enslaving them, who certainly knows. But now that I think about it, there was a scene, if I'm not mistaken, of Andor as a kid coming through the forest and seeing like this big hole dug in the ground, like they were like extracting something or mining. So maybe they fully are aware that something is happening on their planet. So this may not be a first contact moment, but possibly. But I was quite interested to kind of see his upbringing and how he actually got into the position that he certainly is in by being rescued by that older woman that we see in this episode. Couple characters wind up really jumping out to me. I can never remember the actor's name that plays Luthen in here. He is in fact Bix's contact, I'm assuming, to the rebellion, as he winds up coming to the planet that Andor is hiding out on in order to speak with him. I think there's supposed to be an exchange of some sort of Imperial technology that Andor has certainly swiped, and he's meeting here with Luthen to go ahead and exchange it, hopefully in return for some cash, or maybe a way off this planet, as Andor is officially a wanted man after killing those two Imperial officers. And so the actor that plays Luthen, always incredible in anything that he touches. I'm really upset with myself that I can't remember his name, because he's a very popular and famous actor. But I'm so glad that they managed to get him for this series. I mean, just talented as all get out. And I really love just that scene in episode 3 with Luthen along with Andor. Really seeing Luthen, pick Andor apart, try and understand him a little bit more, make sure that he's perfect for the rebellion that he's certainly working on, as Luthen seems like he's done all his homework in regards to who Andor certainly is, and really even startles Andor that he knows as much about him as he certainly lets on. But Luthen likes his style, thinks he certainly has what it takes to go ahead and be a part of this rebellion, even though he hasn't necessarily invited him yet or told them the much bigger picture. But we do see at the end of episode 3 they wind up actually escaping together off this planet. So where this takes Andor, it sounds like it's going to take him to a much larger world that maybe he is in fact prepared for after seeing his actions in here. But great stuff, if you ask me, between those two incredible actors. And what I really enjoyed about that particular scene too was just the nonchalantness of Andor talking about how he just moseyed on into the Empire and just took what he wanted, right? The idea of like, all you gotta do, dirty up your face, put on a costume and wear a utility belt, or a tool belt, and walk on in, and everybody thinks that you just belong. Like they're just so confident and arrogant, I think is what Luthen says, right? It's like the arrogance is ridiculous, isn't it? Just thinking that nothing can touch them. And it did make me laugh a little bit when Andor explains that, because it shouldn't be that easy to just sneak into the Empire. But when you think of a lot of like the animated series that we watch, whether that be Clone Wars, Rebels, right? How many of the main characters literally just put on a costume or disguise themselves and just mosey on into an Imperial base, almost like it's nothing? We've seen this countless times. So the idea of Andor pointing that out, and Luthen just like bewildered that he's like, you're probably right, like they probably wouldn't even care or even see it coming, the idea of sneaking in. It definitely did make me chuckle, and he made a fantastic point that they're just fat and cocky and have nothing to worry about. And so the fact of seeing Andor even sneak in is sort of the last of their concerns. But great stuff in that regards. I'm not too familiar with his friend Bix. I'm not under the impression that she's Kanari. I'm kind of curious as to how they certainly met. It does seem as though Andor's mission in here, at least in the beginning, is that maybe he's trying to find his sister, trying to find somebody else from Kanari, and unable to do so in here, at least in the very beginning. So I do wonder how long he's been looking for her, if anything. But that scene was just intense, with the officers shaking him down, the fight sequence, accidentally killing the man, and then really having that moment to himself of realizing not only does he have the blaster in his hand, but the other guard that's alive is alive, and he's seen your face and he's known what you've done. And even though he's pleading for you, like, I'll keep my mouth shut, I won't say anything, you can just see the wheels turning in Diego Luna's mind, and the fact that he in cold blood literally goes up to the man's face, pulls the trigger, and kills him. I think it immediately sets the tone for who Andor's character is. The fact that he literally is a killer on the run right now. It's going to be interesting to kind of see us as a viewer support him and view him in a certain type of light, to see if there are redeeming qualities, or how he comes to redeem himself, maybe being as part of being part of the rebellion, and maybe he doesn't redeem himself, right? Like, maybe his redemption point isn't until Rogue One, when he decides to go ahead and help them out at the very end. And maybe we do get the opportunity to see a character in Andor truly willing to do anything to go ahead and take down the Empire and do what he needs to do for the rebellion. I mean, there's a reason why he is the way that he is in Rogue One, not us not knowing all the stuff that he's been through or has had to do to get where he's at. And literally within the first episode, we see him kill a man. And so this is just another journey for us to learn a lot more about Andor, certainly going forward. And speaking about killing a guy, for the Imperial officer there, I can't remember the gentleman's name. He is another Imperial officer, him and another. Let me see if I can go ahead and pull up the cast here real quick. Andor cast. It's Stellan Skarsgård. There we go. Stellan Skarsgård is Luthen. I can never remember his name, unfortunately. Surprisingly, we did not see Genevieve O'Reilly in here as Mon Mothma. They had her really heavy in the trailers, but within the first 3 episodes, nothing. And the actor's name I'm talking about, Kyle Soller. He plays the character Cyril Karn. Cyril. He's the one that wants justice for the 2 Imperial officers, because I believe he goes to the person in charge and they're like, don't worry about it, but he feels some type of way about it, and he winds up finding somebody that is willing to do more, that certainly wants to do more. And I appreciate Tony Gilroy giving us this side of the Empire, seeing, I don't want to say even the extremist side of the Empire, but those that are tired of some of the people in the Empire just being lackadaisical and not doling out justice or whatever the case may be, and really decide to go ahead and take matters into their own hands and certainly get stuff done. The Cyril character is just really interesting to me. As an actor, like, I was just trying to tell my girlfriend this the other day when we were watching it, there's something about his face, like his facial features, that I'm just like not the biggest fan of. I don't know if it's unease. I don't know if it's like I can just tell he's like conniving and just a wimp sort of thing. And I think the fact that in episode 3, like he plays like this big guy, like nothing intimidates him, you know, like he's like the toughest person out there, doling out orders, wanting to make sure justice happens. But then when Andor literally has a gun to his head, you've got Luthen threatening to kill him, this guy just breaks and he starts stuttering, he starts giving information sort of thing, and when they give him the opportunity to escape, he's just running recklessly sort of thing, right? I'm not a fan of the Cyril character, but I think his motivations are definitely there, because not only has Andor killed those 2 men earlier in the episode, but Andor escaping with Luthen, they managed to go ahead and set off an explosive that winds up killing more of their men. And I don't even know if it was certainly shell shock that hit Cyril, or just that idea of death is around him. Like I am kind of curious as to how he views Andor now, probably very much as sort of like a cold-blooded killer that's just out there killing people left and right. Maybe really wants to certainly bring him to justice, and maybe he just can't believe that this man is capable of doing what he's doing, and maybe dealing with a little bit of shell shock and knowing that like real people's lives are definitely at risk here and certainly dying, that maybe he himself may not make it out of this situation alive. So again, not the biggest fan of the Cyril character. Something about his face, something about his personality just doesn't work for me, but I do think that he's probably has some really great motivations that I am looking forward to seeing how that's explored and how his story winds up lining up with Diego Luna certainly going forward as well. So overall, really great stuff in here, man. I cannot wait to see what episode 4 is certainly going to have for us. But they're really doing everything right so far within the first 3 episodes. Look, I know some people will probably complain, or I've already heard or seen like 1 or 2 people talk about that it's a little bit too slow for them. It's a little bit boring, if you will. And I can understand that. This is very much a spy, espionage, thriller sort of thing. Think Bourne Identity when you think of Andor, because that's where Tony Gilroy is from, and that's where he's bringing really sort of that same mentality, but just in sort of the Star Wars universe. And so, you know, that type of filmmaking and storytelling may not be for everybody, right? Some people might love stories about smugglers. Some people might look at Star Wars and think lightsabers and Sith and Jedi only sort of thing. So the fact that we are branching out in regards to what Star Wars can be, I think will be really interesting to kind of see what people gravitate towards and what they certainly don't. So again, the pacing is very different, but I kind of dig the pacing. This feels as mature and as adult as I can ask for when it comes to the Star Wars world, and I really hope that Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna keep up the incredible work for the remainder of the show. We've got 12 episodes in total. They did set the time period for this episode, which is 5 years before the Battle of Yavin. So I'm assuming, if anything, by the end of season 2, they will have taken us up to the Rogue One movie itself, that particular moment in general. So overall, great stuff, man. Great stuff. I really came away with episodes 1 and 3 looking for more and feeling like this is some of the most complete all-around Star Wars series that we've had outside of The Mandalorian. And I even would look, Mandalorian has had the pleasure of having 2 seasons, 2 great seasons under its wings, so I don't really want to compare the two because they are vastly different. But in regards to very positive, I think people will walk away with at least Mandalorian and Andor as not much you can say wrong about them. But again, we're only 3 episodes in. We'll definitely see how the remainder of it goes. But guys, I definitely want to know your thoughts. Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And I will say this too. This might be controversial for some people, but I'll go ahead and put it in there also. The idea of seeing Tony Gilroy come in and create an original Star Wars project gives me hope for a returning Rian Johnson at some point in time, because I feel like the only hit to Rian Johnson's legacy in regards to his past work that he's done is The Last Jedi. I think if you look at his other work, from Brick to Looper to Knives Out, I'm hearing incredible things about Glass Onion, the sequel to Knives Out also. He got nominated for an Oscar last year for his script for Knives Out. He didn't win, but the idea of getting nominated and recognized is pretty damn impressive if you ask me. And so, it's one thing to come in and write Star Wars as a Star Wars fan and deal with characters that are beloved by millions around the world, and then you try and tell people the story of those beloved characters. That's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. But if you tell me, hey, Rian Johnson is getting thrusted into the Star Wars universe, but he's using all original storyline, all original characters, I gotta think that turns out to be fantastic in regards to just what Rian Johnson is certainly capable of, and hopefully we get more directors, more writers, sort of with that same mindset in regards to how to tackle it. And I think the idea of Andor being tackled as a series and not like a movie turned into a series, you know, the 6-episode stuff, like I'm kind of done with that at this point. Like I want like 10 to 15 episodes a season, and if Andor is going to give me 12, I think that's a perfect length of time to certainly tell the story that you definitely need to. And so I think they know what they're doing here in Andor. So congrats to Diego, to Tony, to Kathleen, and first 3 episodes in the books. This is exactly what I wanted as a Star Wars fan, especially coming off of Rogue One. So I think we got something special here, but we'll definitely see how the remainder of the season goes. So remember, guys, episode 4 drops this upcoming Wednesday, and we will be hitting you with our live review Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time, ladies and gentlemen. So that'll do it for me here. These are just simply my A+ opinions. I want to know yours, though. Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And until then, guys, do me a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.